These are all self-goals scored largely by Pakistan. I don't think they need any adversaries to compound the situation. They have created this mess for themselves. And truly, the Frankenstein's monsters that they have unleashed are now well beyond their control and anybody else's control. So we have to see how General Munir and company, how best they deal with the situation.
Hello and welcome to StratNews Global. I'm Nitin Gokhale and you are on our evening program, The Gist. And on the program this evening, familiar face on StratNews Global, Ramanathan Kumar, a former intelligence officer, and someone who specializes in terrorism, counter-terrorism, Afghanistan and Pakistan. So welcome to this program once again and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Nitin. It's always a pleasure to be back on your show.
Thank you. So let me start with where is the current situation in Pakistan. Now we have the caretaker government having taken over. The main protagonist over the past 4-5 years in jail, Imran Khan I'm talking about. So what is your first assessment when I ask you, where is Pakistan today?
My first assessment would be, I'm tempted to say, Nitin, that the more things change in Pakistan, the more they appear to be the same, which really, what I mean to say by that is that the army, I think, is really back east, west, north, south, center. The army leads everything, to paraphrase what has been said about the Chinese Communist Party. But I think overall, if you ask me, after all the tumult of the past few months, I think really the civilians have ceded an enormous amount of space and the army is more or less in control of everything. That, I think, is in a nutshell where Pakistan, I think, finds itself today.
But this was inevitable, isn't it? But given the kind of the shenanigans that the politicians indulge in Pakistan and the kind of backdoor entry of the Shehbaz Sharif government took place and Imran Khan was ousted. In the chaos, I think the army always looks like an organization which will bring stability. So in a way, I think Asim Munir would have created the situation himself, or the circumstances became like that. But today, when you look at Asim Munir and his approach to governing Pakistan, is he following the same playbook as his predecessors in the army, or is doing something different?
Well, I think there are two aspects to it. I think in many ways, he is possibly following in the footsteps of his predecessor. But he's also, my reading has been that he is perhaps in a sense cut of, made of perhaps sterner stuff than his predecessor. I'll come to that later.
Sure.
But at this point of time, I think it is possibly really the corporate, the institutional interests of the army which is asserting itself irrespective of whoever is the chief. Now, and I think when General Asim Munir took over his post, things were extremely, the political situation in Pakistan was in a state of tremendous flux.
Sure.
And slowly, I think, as the dust has begun settling, I think you are seeing signs of the chief, feeling more confident of himself and asserting himself. And you can see that, for instance, in the meeting that he had with the business community.
Sure.
In the last few days.
Right.
And this really has been the offshoot of the formation of something called the Special Investment Facilitation Council in Pakistan.
Right.
This happened at the fag end of the Shehbaz Sharif government, just before Parliament was dissolved, 3 days before its scheduled expiry date.
Right.
But the SIFC has been created with an apex committee which includes the army chief and an army officer as its national coordinator, and its objective is to attract investment on a grand scale for Pakistan, as much as $100 billion over the next few years, with the bulk coming from the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, the UAE, of course.
Yeah.
And all this, I believe, or most analysts believe, has the imprimatur of the army chief. He is somehow confident of attracting these investments. He's talking of a blueprint to revive of a grand blueprint to revive the Pakistani economy. It's not going to be easy because there are far deeper structural problems that have to be addressed. And I think Pakistan is a unique country where even the economy, people look to the army to fix it.
Right.
It would hardly happen in any other country. But the fact of the matter is that both the civilian government, the previous government, the last government, was more than eager to put everything in the lap of the army and make a exit with a whimper, so to speak. And I think the army also has been more than eager now under General Munir's leadership to show that it is equal to taking up the challenge and fixing all that needs to be fixed in Pakistan. So it's a combination of both, I would say.
Right. He's also, the army chief has spoken about investments from Saudi Arabia, for instance, to the tune of $25 billion.
That's right.
The US seems to be sort of backing or supporting, at least keeping Pakistan, the efforts to keep Pakistan afloat. The IMF loan hasn't come through yet, but like you mentioned, Pakistan is still looking to bring in $100 billion of investment. Going by what has happened in the past, do you think these friends of Pakistan, by compulsion or by choice, Saudi Arabia, US, will they play a role in keeping Pakistan afloat or keeping Pakistan going and not let it go under?
So I think people who've been writing about this Special Investment Facilitation Council have mentioned that it's almost like a similar arrangement was sort of put in place when Musharraf was in power. It was called the CIRC at that point of time, the Commercial and Investment Restructuring Council or some such thing.
Yes.
There again, I mean, there was a lot of hype about attracting investment and so on and so forth. But why I mentioned this is that at that point of time, the international situation was different. The geopolitical situation was different, and Pakistan was in a much more was in a happier place, so to speak, in the sense that it had a certain geostrategic importance at that point of time in the global war on terror, which the Americans were sort of fully backing. They were the initiators of the global war on terror.
Yes.
And so the dollars flowed into Pakistan. But today, I think Pakistan's geostrategic importance is greatly diminished. And so I don't think it's going to be that the dollars are going to flow in as they used to once upon a time. I'm sure countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, despite the religious factor and so on and so forth, which obviously I think the present army chief is banking on Islamic solidarity. He has a soft corner for the Islamic fraternity. That is really where he comes from, and that is why I always felt that he is more in the Ziaul Haq mold rather than in the Musharraf mold. But I'm sure these countries are also going to put their money where their mouth is. And with the political situation being so uncertain in Pakistan, there is really no incentive, so to speak, for them to invest in. Even the much touted CPEC. In fact, the SIFC is supposed to actually put the CPEC into the shade.
Right.
But look at the CPEC.
Where is it now? Yeah.
Absolutely against the figures of, say, 60 billion, 62 billion and all that used to be talked about in the past. I think the actual figures are possibly something in the range of 20 to 25 billion at the most.
And that too after a decade almost.
Absolutely a decade. And it's hardly led to, any substantial or tangible or visible improvement in the Pakistani economy. Pakistan, in fact, is far weaker economically than it was when the CPEC was talked of as a game changer.
Right.
So if the example of the CPEC is anything to go by, then I think all this talk of the SIFC also is, I would say, I would call it a pipe dream, even at the risk of, sounding a little...
euphoric about it.
I mean, yeah.
Something of that kind. But I think you made an interesting point, which I want to take up a little more discussion on, that Pakistan's importance in the geostrategic and geopolitical situation has diminished. And one of the reasons is that it couldn't get the foothold or the kind of control it wanted in Afghanistan, or what it desired, or what it thought it would get 2 years after the Taliban has taken over Afghanistan. It seems that they are fighting much more than any differences of opinion with India. The kind of recriminations and bitterness between the Taliban government, for whatever it is worth, in Kabul and Rawalpindi seems to be a completely unknown entity right now, but it seems to be increasing by the day. And the attacks from TTP are seen as something that the Taliban is doing. So where do you see that factor coming in as far as the Pakistani internal security situation is concerned?
Yes, I mean, I think it has been said that the so-called doctrine or concept of strategic depth has unraveled completely. And you're right, the attacks which are originating from Afghanistan by the TTP and even the ISKP or factions of these organizations, they show no signs of diminishing. On the contrary, they seem to be only increasing with the passage of time. The last month and a half, we've seen there have been major attacks both in Balochistan and, of course, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And the TTP and, in fact, a new organization called the Tehreek Jihad Pakistan. There is a feeling that the TJP is possibly a faction or a front for the ISKP.
Okay.
They have claimed responsibility for these attacks.
Right.
And the Pakistanis clearly are clueless, or they are at their wits' end on how to put an end to this. The army chief has made some strong statements. The former defense minister has made some strong statements. They've said that there's going to be they're not going to, unlike the Imran Khan government, there's going to be no leniency or mercy shown to the TTP. There's going to be no dialogue with them. If at all, they're only going to talk to the Taliban, the Afghan Taliban who are running Afghanistan. But all this is only, tough talk. There is really it has not led to any relief, I would say, for Pakistan.
Sure.
In Afghanistan, of course, there is some talk of there being, a difference of opinion between the pragmatists in Kabul and the hardliners in Kandahar. And the Haibatullah, the Taliban leader, has issued a statement the last month and a half that, those who carry out or at least attacks across the borders are not permissible without the permission of the religious leadership.
Sure.
This is all that has happened in response to whatever Pakistan has done. And despite that statement, the attacks have taken place in Balochistan. The Pakistani army has been targeted.
Right.
Security checkposts have been targeted. So I'm afraid and these are all self goals scored largely by Pakistan. I don't think they need any adversaries to compound the situation. They have created this mess for themselves. And truly, the Frankenstein's monsters that they have unleashed are now well beyond their control and anybody else's control. So we have to see how General Munir and company, how best they deal with the situation.
They have to deal with one more situation going forward. Of course, this is a challenge, and it's going to be a major challenge. But how do they restart the political process, or how do they? What do you foresee over the next 6 months? Let's say, if elections are to be held, what is the future of Imran Khan? What is the future of Nawaz Sharif? Can you put some light on that?
Yes, I mean, one can make an attempt.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm asking you to predict correctly. Just informed opinion about it.
My reading would be that, as others have also said, and I tend to agree,
Right.
that sometime perhaps early next year, we are looking at a possible election. There are, of course, conflicting signals as far as that also is concerned, because, the Election Act of Pakistan was amended just before the Shehbaz Sharif government went out,
Right.
and the caretaker government was given, or at least some of the limitations on the powers of the caretaker government were removed.
Right.
And that led to, questions as to why was that happening. Did it mean that the caretakers were here for an extended period of time? Those questions still have not gone away. But I think, as others have pointed out, if the caretaker government continues indefinitely, then, of course, the Pakistani constitution will be well and truly dead and buried. And that may not be very easy, because, as we've, I think, discussed once in a previous program also, on a previous show, Article 6 of the Pakistani constitution, now it's not easy to justify a suspension or a complete abrogation of the constitution.
Right.
So therefore, I think all this leads me to believe that sometime early next year, say January, February or thereabouts, there would be an election. I think clearly the army is hell-bent on making sure that Imran Khan does not contest that election. He, of course, already stands disqualified by the Election Commission of Pakistan.
Sure.
Whether the PTI itself will be allowed to contest or not, I think there is still a question mark about it. As far as Nawaz Sharif is concerned, I'm sure he wants to, he is more than eager to come back and lead from the front, so to speak. But there are legal hurdles. The previous government did try to, amend the powers of the Supreme Court to review its own decisions.
Right.
but the Supreme Court under the present Chief Justice struck down that amendment. That was basically meant to, to help Nawaz Sharif to challenge the judgment which disqualified him, or to enable the court to review that judgment.
Yes.
But that hasn't happened. So therefore, Nawaz Sharif's disqualification really still stands.
Yes.
This is a legal hurdle which the PMLN has not yet been able to fully get over. But I think in such a situation, I would tend to agree with those who feel that, the process of political engineering is still very much on, despite whatever claims the army may have made in the past about wanting to get out of politics and all. I think all that is...
it's an eyewash.
It's an eyewash. So I think the Pakistan Army would be happiest if they have an extremely weak civilian veneer or a facade, and some a King's Party. I think there are constant efforts in that direction. If they can engineer or manipulate, engineer a situation where no party really has a strong majority, then they can continue to, I think,
call the shots
from the background, which they've always been comfortable doing.
Yes.
I think that more or less is where all this appears to be heading at this point of time.
I think very well summed up, because it's Pakistan's tragedy that the Pakistani army, which is supposed to protect the country and its people, actually make sure that it never gets to the stage where they can comfortably look for developmental programs and sort of getting the democracy embedded into the country's system. I don't think that is going to happen, given the Pakistani army's inclination to rule from behind, or rule from a remote control or through a remote control. So let's see what happens. But again, as usual, very insightful comments, and giving us an overview of where Pakistan is today. Asim Munir, and just to bring your attention to it, I think you had mentioned in the program that we had done, assessing him taking over the Pakistani army, which you had predicted some days ahead of the actual declaration, is that he is right now busy with what he has to do internally. But going forward, India has to also keep a watch on what he does vis-a-vis India. And how India deals with him is going to be a question, maybe another program for that. But thank you very much for the time being.
Thank you very much, Nitin.
Thank you. Pleasure. So that's Ramanathan Kumar speaking to us about the situation in Pakistan. You know where to reach us as far as your feedback and comments are concerned. So do keep sending them. We value them. We also base some of our programs based on these suggestions that come from you. So also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you already haven't done that. And of course, you know where to follow our social media handles. So for the moment, that's all I have. It's goodbye.